What's up, YouTube? ODST General back again with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And a little bit late on this video, but today we are going to be checking out the Pelican that was added. Some of you guys probably already saw me streaming this on the day it came out, but I didn't actually get a chance to record it. I wanted to properly check it out before we got into it. Now, taking a quick look at all the different liveries here for this, we've got, of course, your standard olive green. We've got a bunch of different kind of civilian-ish colors, like bright pink and orange and red. We've got woodland camouflage. We've got your standard black. We've got the policing variants. We've got like a blue kind of digital pattern. So a lot of different stuff. Now, as far as the performance of the Pelican here, we can see that it's got a cruising speed of about 200 knots. It's not the fastest thing ever. It can go faster than 210, but it does hit overspeed. Its max altitude's only 45,000 feet. In the trailer, they show the thing in orbit. It can't reach orbit without cheating it up there. A max altitude for it is actually probably closer to 55,000 feet from what I've seen. It can get up to 60,000, but it tends to lose altitude at that point and drops down more than 5,000 meters. Or feet, I should say, not meters. And then it's got an endurance of 10 hours and a range of 5,300 nautical miles. So it's got a really good range on it, but it is not very fast or maneuverable. Now, this is supposed to be the civilian/trainer version. This isn't the souped-up military version that we see in the games, which is why apparently it's so slow. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. We're going to go with the policing variant, I think, as far as that goes. And then I think for our runway, we want to do Lacula, because that's my personal favorite. We're gonna change the time though, so it's daytime. I can show this off in the day, and we're gonna zoom in here, and we're gonna start off in parking, so I can show this off a little bit better. I'll be right back with you guys. All right. And we are getting into the game now. So here we are in the interior of the Pelican, but let's go ahead and let's go to the exterior here. So yeah, this is the Pelican. Actually, you know what? Real quick before we actually do this, let's go back into the interior for 1 second. Let's open the cargo bay. And yeah, this is the interior for the Pelican is can be seen from the outside here. We'll check out the interior a little bit more closely in just a second here. I'm still trying to remember all these drone controls. They don't come quite as naturally as they used to. Now, there is nothing on the nose, which I'm a little bit disappointed by because there is a camera that you can adjust on the interior, so I do wish they had the camera suite mounted on the front of the Pelican like we see on the policing variants in Halo 3 ODST. Unfortunately, we don't get that. The other issue I kind of take with the exterior, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, I kind of like it, but I would prefer it if the windows were transparent and you could see inside from the exterior. Unfortunately, that is not the case. It would be kind of cool if they had like an actual like proper Halo pilot and everything that you could take a look at. But yeah, a lot of details otherwise. There's a lot of little things to look at on the exterior of the craft and on the interior. And speaking of the interior, let's go ahead and hop in here. So going into the interior, we'll start off in the cargo bay and then work our way up. Now, there is, again, not a huge amount of functionality back here in the cargo bay, not necessarily a lot of stuff that we can really do or interact with. There is a little bit of an Easter egg back here, though, which shows the troop transport extended cargo variant of the Pelican that we've never actually seen in-game, but this is like literally a sticker taken from some like concept art or something and then applied in here, which is kind of neat. You can see all of the seats are numbered, and they also actually all have cargo bays, which you can't open or anything. So they've actually got the netting, but then they've also got like little cargo compartments for transport and stuff. And then we've got a number of panels on the floor. I'm not really clear on what any of these actually do. And then there's like a cargo bay hook here and everything. So there's a lot of little neat things here. But again, not really anything you can interact with other than the door panels. We've got a little medical icon here, but there isn't really any easily, like, that doesn't look like a very good handle, I should say. I was going to say easily way to open it, which doesn't make sense the way that's worded. We've got a number of other computers and stuff back here. None of it's interactable. Some displays. We've got a food station and waste sanitation device. I don't know if this is supposed to be like a toilet or if this, because it says, say, sanitation, but it could also be like a food disposal when I was thinking about it, because this seems really small for a toilet for somebody to try and fit into. I guess the toilet could, in theory, like pop out of here and then just be in use, which would make sense. But if you have a food station, then in theory you've got to go to the bathroom somewhere in here, right? Logic would dictate. So I don't know. You got a weapons rack. And we've got some more controls back here. Now these are unfortunately operational that I've found, unless I've maybe just missed one that's operational back here. But let's go ahead. We'll close this up. Go back up over here. So, this is the front. There's a little bit of an Easter egg here. Now, I've got music turned off, but if you click this, it plays the Halo theme. It plays it with like a little radio filter or overlay onto the music if you're on the inside, and it plays an unedited version if you're in third person. And I think it plays it on loop, but it's pretty awesome. Definitely makes you feel really hyped up flying the Pelican. Even though that music should be free and clear to use through Microsoft's game content usage, I'm not going to risk it because there's still third-party companies that will try to claim that, and it's a big hassle. So let's go ahead and let's go to our checklist here. So we've got to do startup and all that stuff, so let's go ahead and do our evaluation. Oh.
Free and correct. Power levers. Check. Battery. On. Avionics master switch. On.
You can see our PFD and MFD have come online. Pilot's flight display and main flight display. Let's go ahead. Parking brake should be set.
Set.
Yep.
Power levers.
Let me put those back down to idle.
Fuel shutoff valves. Open. Strobe. On. Engine starters. On.
You can hear the engines kicking on back there.
Generators. On. Alternator. On. Navigation lights. On. Taxi light. On. Power levers. Idle. Parking brake. Release. Beacon. On. Parking brake. Release. Flight mode. Hover. Power levers.
Okay, so the Pelican operates as a VTOL. This is our flight mode here. And we're able to switch between flight mode and forward, which is cruise mode. To take off in flight mode, we basically have this here. This is when you're in hover mode. This is where you actually hover at. This is descending if your little purple line is down below 45. And if it's above 55, you'll raise altitude. So we need to be above 55%.
Above 55%.
And that will bring us up.
Landing gear.
Now, this is our landing gear button right here, but I've just gone ahead and used the switch on my keyboard. We actually need to change this.
Squawk 77022012. 012 radar contact 1 mile southeast of Victor November Lima Kilo 10,000 feet.
Okay. Let's take a quick look at it from the outside up here in the air again. Get a nice little beauty shot of it. Yeah, it's really cool. I must have, it wasn't snowy here the last time I played here, which was just like a day or two ago. So that's kind of funny. Oh, that's interesting. It was like a shot inside, or under the camera there. So now we're up in the air, what we can do is we can check out some of the other things. So on each side here, we've got some buttons here. There's, we're actually, it's kind of funny, we're on more of the co-pilot side than the pilot side for this for whatever reason, but we've got a radar map, which is what this side starts off by default. And then there's a knob up here that we can adjust the range of the radar map so we can actually like look out further here and see further around us. Or we can zoom in and see a lot more detail so you can actually see the airport and everything laid out in the radar map there. We have synthetic vision view, which is the default for this position, which is a 3D render in black and white of basically everything around us. It's fairly detailed, obviously. It's not a one-to-one picture of it or anything. And then we've got Camvision. Now this is kind of funny because you've got the Camvision here, and obviously if we look in game and it's actually snowy and everything right now, the Camvision is not a actual view of the what you're seeing. It's a satellite image taken of it, which is kind of interesting because if you look over here, they do something to make the satellite imagery, I guess, look 3D. But, you know, if you look down, this is definitely the satellite imaging of the buildings that should be there, and of course it doesn't necessarily match exactly. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We're going to go ahead and go back to this. Now, as far as like other switches and stuff, there isn't a whole lot of stuff down here. Let's actually do this, though. There is some other stuff we can go into if we're back in the radar mode. And again, that's true over there. So you've got like terrain and weather and navigational aids and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different options that you can set up here and mess with. We don't really need to get too much into that. We're going to keep synthetic vision on for right now. There's pilot heat, and given that it's snowing out and everything, we're going to turn on the pilot heat and windshield de-ice just in case we need it. There's also warnings here. So the fire warning is inoperative, but there's a master warning and a caution warning, and those can go off. Now, this is our autopilot stuff here. So if we want to set autopilot, we can set heading, bank limit, vertical speed, altitude hold mode, auto throttle. So to be honest, this is a very simplistic vehicle, which isn't a bad thing. Actually, I kind of like it. It makes a lot of sense for a vehicle that's supposed to be, you know, like 530 years in the future or whatever. Actually, even more than that. But we've got panel lighting. Got the main display brightness here. We've got barometric pressure controls. We've got the parking brake, which you guys saw. We should have, I think, another display brightness tweaking thing here, and I can't remember where it's at. Oh, here it is. Yeah, the pilot display brightness. So then we have this keypad, and to be honest, I thought initially that this keypad had something to do with this, because this is your radio channels. I can't actually figure out how to change the radio channels or anything in this. That's one thing I haven't been able to sort out. So I thought maybe this was related, this keypad. Maybe it is, and I just don't know what I'm doing with it. But you can see there's a couple different radio channels you can switch between. Now, some people have theorized that maybe if you put in a secret code here into this, you can get authorization for the military variant of the Pelican. The fact is that no one's actually been able to confirm it. Some people have claimed putting 343 in plays a special tone. I don't get any tones. I have music turned off. I've tried it with music on. I haven't heard any tones or anything, so I think people are probably just lying about that. Or they're crazy. So, as far as other displays go, we've got engine page, which shows our engine's current angle, which with this, there's only straight down or straight back. There's no in between with the VTOL. They are currently at 73% power, and yeah, we're able to go to, that's strobe light. We want that off. We want these on. I don't know why those were off. And then we've got fuel, which there's a 97% fuel in the main tank. There's also like this back section, which maybe looks like the Pelican could potentially carry a fuel tank on the back on the maglet that gives it extra fuel. I don't know how this works here with this extra fuel. I haven't sorted that out. And then there's an electric thing, but that one's unfortunately inoperative too. So we're going to go ahead and go back to radio and let's actually fly it. So we're going to start with hover mode here, and we're going to stay at around 55-45 here. So by pushing forward on my joystick, because again I am using a joystick in hover mode, it sends us forward. Now, I don't have pedals, so I have a twist joystick. So twisting, the joystick does this. Moving left or right shifts us left and right. We don't turn at an angle or anything. Of course, pulling the throttle backwards sends us backwards. Now, let's go ahead and switch into flight mode, and we're going to pick up speed. So it's now shifted from hover mode to cruise mode. And with cruise mode, we're now able to angle and everything. Basically, how you'd expect a fixed-wing aircraft to fly is how this thing flies. It's fairly responsive for a craft this size. We were getting an overspeed warning. We need to throttle back. We're only at like 390 knots. Unfortunately, this thing can only go about 425 or so, I think, at like top speed before you really have to start worrying about breaking it apart. Arguably, it could go a little bit faster, but yeah, I don't want to push it too hard. So we're going to go ahead and ascend up a little bit here, try to bleed off some of the speed. Actually, what we can do, I was going to say we can turn off the master warning there. And we're losing speed fairly quickly. So again, for a craft this size, like I was starting to say, it's fairly responsive. But keep in mind, again, that this isn't necessarily going to be the most agile craft. You're going to have more maneuverable fighters. There is faster aircraft. There's more maneuverable aircraft in the game. But the thing to consider is this thing is really massive. It's supposed to be about the size of like a C-130. If it was done realistically. I haven't actually compared this to a C-130 in the game, so I don't know if that is the case here in the game, but that's about the size it should be. Let's go into third person. Man, I'll be honest, this should be set to live weather, but man, this is just, I love all these clouds and everything. You can't see a whole lot of the scenery around, but honestly, now we're getting out of the mountain ranges, it's going to just start kind of flattening out pretty quick here. So this is actually pretty much perfect because you can see Everest and stuff, because we are just outside of Mount Everest here. It's all covered in clouds and everything. It's pretty neat. So let's go ahead and turn on our autopilot. So let's engage the autopilot. And let's set our heading. So with the heading set, you can see there's like a little box here. And with this knob right here on the upper left, we can move that box to the left or to the right and set our auto heading. Turn our bank limit on for just a second to try and straighten out. So it won't matter too much. And we could set an altitude hold. So we'll put that on. We'll also put on auto throttle, so that way it can automatically adjust the throttle to what it needs to actually hold altitude. So right now we're seeing about 26,000 feet in the air. So this is about half of the max altitude that this Pelican can get. Now, a lot of people have complained about having some difficulty getting higher than 26,000 feet with it. It's definitely pretty easy to do in my opinion, but it is a lot easier if you use the autopilot. If you're not careful with your speed, you can definitely lose speed and bleed off speed pretty quickly. So the trick is to manage your speed properly when you're doing it. Again, using all the autopilot stuff, the altitude modes and stuff like that. You don't necessarily want to do altitude hold, but do like vertical speed and all that. And just keep an eye and make sure you're not going like too fast or too far up. You should be pretty much golden here. So we're going to go ahead and put our vertical speed up as high as probably like 5,000 feet a minute, I think. We probably could go a little bit higher at this point, but we'll start off there and see how things go. And so you just want to kind of keep an eye on your virtual display here, or your synthetic display or whatever it's called, the synthetic vision view. And you can see our projected speed and our actual speed here. You can see our altitude being 26,400. And we can change our desired altitude over here. So Again, we can get up to about 55,000 feet, so we're going to probably aim for about that here. It doesn't have to be exact. So we can have that as our selected altitude. We could do the altitude hold mode, but I think if we just leave it on vertical speed, it should take us up there. And, you know, again, here you can see we're only going 132 now with the auto speed. There is a speed mach, so we can bring this up. Now, this thing will go up quite high as far as the speed mach goes. It can go as high as, like, I think 990 or something, but the Pelican will tear itself well apart before then. Now, that's why I'm kind of theorizing that maybe there is a way to actually get the military version with the authorization as people have predicted. Now, some people don't seem to think it, you know, exists, but, you know, at the same time, why would they make so the Pelican could go, you know, 500, you know, knots above what it tears itself apart at in the game? So it doesn't really make much sense to me. We're going to go ahead and just go a little bit above cruising speed. We'll aim for 330 knots. I can't guarantee we'll be able to get that much speed with a climb like this. It's going to get as high as it can and to try and match that, but it might only be able to get, yeah, see, it's only got like 190, and it's actually dropping because our vertical speed is so much, so. We're going to bring this down a bit here. Bring it down to about 2,500 feet per minute to climb. You can see the Pelican's evening out a fair bit. We are still climbing though, but not nearly as fast. But we are gaining speed again. Again, the trick is with, you know, gaining altitudes, you want to balance your speed properly. You don't want to bleed off all your speed, otherwise you will stall out, of course. Let's go ahead. Well, this is climbing. We don't need to worry too much because, I mean, we're so high up, we're not really going to have to worry about anything. And since we're playing alone, there isn't really a whole lot of other air traffic in this area. Let's go ahead and open up the cargo bay so you guys can hear that in the air and hear what that sounds like. I mean, you already can hear that wind just roaring out of there. It's actually louder, I think, from the cockpit than it is back there. It's kind of funny. It would be nice if this panel was on this side, so you could just turn around and you didn't have to like adjust the camera from the seat here. You could just like look back and be like, "Oh, yep, there it is." Click, like this one. Now let's take a look at our speed. Our speed has continued to climb. We're up to about 230 knots and still continuing to gain speed. We're about 41,000 feet currently in the air, so still about 14,000 feet shy of our max altitude. I was gonna say 10,000, but that's not quite accurate. Again, ideally, according to the game, the max altitude is about 45,000. So in theory, our max altitude's in about 2,000 feet now, so you know that's again not really the case though. Now there is also, I did forget, there is a dome light, so if you are operating, you know, during the night, obviously you can light up all these panels and everything, but they don't, you know, a lot of these are buttons that don't really light up as far as I can tell, so you can turn the dome light on if it was really dark and check this all out that way. So this is operatable at night. I can see the moon up there, that's pretty neat. Yeah, really above the cloud layer here. Well, the mountain ranges and everything pretty well below us for the most part. say for the most part, like there's something that actually approaches this close. Now we're quite well above all the mountain ranges here. So we're just reaching 45,000 feet. So again, this is supposed to be the max altitude for the aircraft. Again, you can see it is continuing to ascend with really relatively no issues. We are losing speed ascending, or I should say, we're staying actually pretty close right now. We're bleeding a teeny tiny bit off, but just barely as far as speed goes. And so we are currently still ascending at 2,500 feet a minute, but at 45,000 feet, 46,000 feet, the 2,500 feet per minute is definitely a stretch with this thing. So we're going to go ahead and just continue to ascend as we can. We'll keep an eye on our speed. We'll try to keep it, you know, as high as possible for as long as possible, at least until we get to the 55,000 feet. I probably won't try to ascend past that again. If you get up to like 60,000, it dives down. It just it can't ascend to that point. It just loses speed and just drops. And take a look at the camera here. Our VAP range and everything. Alright, so we're approaching 49,000 feet here. You can see our vertical speed is actually fluctuating just a teeny bit as it makes adjustments and everything, but it is trying to stay around 2,500 feet per minute. We've dropped down to about 245 of speed, but it's still going down relatively slow, but it has dropped about 20 knots since we last looked, so I mean it's going fairly steady, but not super fast either. And you can see the G's and everything, so yeah, a lot of little info and stuff here, but yeah, definitely feels, compared to a lot of planes and everything, fairly basic, but it is an absolutely fun flight. Now, if you guys do have Microsoft Flight Simulator, the Pelican is free in the marketplace. It doesn't come with the base game, but you can get it for free just through there. And again, right now at this time, I guess we don't know if there's a military version that can be unlocked or not, so we're going to have to wait to find out for that. If that does end up being the case, I'll probably do an update video showing off the military variant. As far as that goes, I'm guessing all the libraries and everything would be the same. But, you know, I'm not sure. I'm still a little bit skeptical it exists, but, you know, just looking at the speed Mach alone and seeing how high that can go really does make me inclined to believe that it is capable of going 990 knots, because that's such a weird place to end the speed Mach. I mean, why not just put it to 999 at that point? Why 990? Unless that was closer to the actual maximum speed of this thing. I don't know. Just my thoughts on it here. I don't know if there's really anything else to show off, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to get up to 55,000 feet here. And then we're pretty close to a full amount of time on this video, so I think what we'll do is we're just going to get up this extra 2,000 feet, and then we'll just going to drop down. We're down to about 220 knots, a little under that 2019. I don't even know why I'm saying, like, about. I can just read the exact number. It's right there on the screen. I do that, though. I'll round up when it's not necessary because the number is, like, right there, or it's just, like, a really simple number. But we're dropping much more quickly. Now we're already down to 214, so it's still dropping fairly fast at this point, but we're still getting, you know, pretty good amount of speed. I'm not too worried about. We're almost at the altitude, our desired altitude here, so we've just got about 600 more feet here to go. I guess I got 55,100, but you know, whatever. Now, I'll be honest, I'm having a hard time remembering right at this particular moment if this craft will stop at the vertical speed, with 55,100 being our desired altitude. You can see, though, it is slowing down pretty significantly as far as that goes. Our vertical speed is still set to 2,500, but it is really having a harder time maintaining that and achieving that climb at this altitude. Again, we are now about 10,000 feet above the supposed max altitude of the Pelican, and it is continuing to climb with relatively little issue. There is definitely a speed issue with the climb. So we're going to switch over to altitude hold mode. We're going to switch this down to 0 feet. And so it might go up and down a little bit, but yeah, we're seeing about 55,000 feet now. So it can go a little bit higher, but this is kind of what your altitude would look like for long-range travels. And then, you know, at this point, you just basically fly to whatever destination you want to go to. Again, not the fastest flight with only, you know, so many knots available. It is going to start increasing in speed now that we're no longer climbing. It's probably not going to be able to reach quite its maximum speed, but, you know, who knows. Since it is struggling to get up in speed, I'll just show you guys that this, in fact, can go up to 990 knots. It will tear itself apart well before then. Again, realistically, you probably want to go no faster than 425 knots if possible. And, you know, you're going to get overspeed notifications before that point. So really, probably like 350, 370 is a much more safer range as far as speed to go. But it actually has dropped a little bit in altitude. So it is bleeding off speed, trying to climb back up to 55,000 feet. So it's not exactly perfect up here, but it goes pretty well. So let's do this. Let's go ahead. Let's turn off our autopilot. We're going to increase our thrust just a little bit here. And then we're going to just go straight down. And we're going to start building up speed fairly quickly here. Now, a straight dive like this can and will tear apart this craft pretty quickly. So again, we don't want to get too much past 425. So you can already see we've got our overspeed warning, so we want to start throttling back. We're still increasing speed here. There we go. Alright, bring it back here. We're going to throttle down just a little bit. So what you can also do is, we're going to shut this off. You can also, if you're like at an angle or if you're having like a hard time, say you're in danger and you're like this and you don't want to be like that, you can kind of choose this and you can actually just switch the flight mode to hover. And then it'll just snap the Pelican too. It'll drift forward a little bit further. There's, you know, it's got some forward momentum, so it'll need to stop that. But once it stops that, it'll bleed off all that speed as fast as it can. And it will put you down to 0 as quickly as it possibly can. So you can do that. So say you're stuck in a dive like we were just doing, and you want to get out of it, and you're in pretty desperate trouble, and you're having a hard time pulling out of this dive. It's not guaranteed to save you if you take too long doing this, but you can switch it over to the hover mode to try and save yourself. So again, we'll dive down here and we'll try this out. So we're at 325. So you can see it actually doesn't always work perfectly. We've got the hover mode on, and sometimes if you're in like a really steep angle, it isn't always going to work, but there is a lot of times it can work. So if we're actually in cruise, it is trying to correct itself as far as the speed goes. But it does seem to be struggling a little bit. Turn off that master warning again. Alright guys, well, we're going to call it there. The kids are starting to scream here in the background a lot now that we're near the end. So we're going to go ahead and call that for the Pelican. Let me know, have you guys checked out the Pelican in Microsoft Flight Simulator? What did you think? If you have, is it your favorite aircraft in there now? And if there's any other aircraft you guys want me to check out, I might be willing to do that. So let me know in the comments below. And of course, guys, take it easy. I'll see you all in the next one.